Jasmine Carter stepped off the city bus, adjusting the strap of her worn-out backpack. Her sneakers squeaked slightly on the polished pavement as she crossed the street toward the luxury car dealership. The glass walls sparkled in the sun, and shiny cars sat like jewels inside. She had always been fascinated by cars, not just the speed or power, but how they worked, how they were designed, and how they felt when you sat behind the wheel. Today, she had time between her college classes, so she decided to stop by and see the new electric models she had read about. She was 19, tall, confident, and had a soft, serious face. Her hoodie was plain gray, her jeans were clean but faded, and her hair was tied in a bun. She didn't look like someone who walked out of a magazine, but she carried herself with quiet self-respect. The moment she stepped inside the dealership, she felt a change in the air. The room was large and cool, with smooth marble floors and big windows letting in the light. Sleek cars were placed perfectly, each one shiny, polished, and expensive. There were a few customers around, all dressed in suits and designer clothes. Salesmen buzzed around them, smiling and nodding. Jasmine stood near a futuristic black sports car, her eyes sparkling with interest. She ran her fingers gently along the doorframe, admiring the craftsmanship. She looked around for someone to talk to. Nobody came. She noticed one of the salesmen look in her direction, frown slightly, then turn away. Another was laughing with a couple wearing sunglasses indoors, clearly rich. Jasmine waited patiently, trying not to feel awkward. Finally, she walked over to a desk and asked politely, "Excuse me, could someone tell me more about this model?" The man behind the desk looked up from his tablet. He glanced at her hoodie, her backpack, her face, and gave a tight smile. "Are you here to take pictures for social media or something?" he asked, half joking but not friendly. Jasmine was surprised. "No," she said calmly. "I'm actually interested in learning more about the features, especially the electric engine and the safety systems." The man raised an eyebrow and gave a short laugh. "Those models start at 200,000. You sure you're in the right place, sweetheart?" Jasmine felt her stomach tighten, but she stayed calm. "Yes, I'm in the right place." He looked around, as if hoping another staff member would come deal with her. No one did. Then he stood up and waved a hand dismissively. "Listen, we're kinda busy right now. Maybe you can come back with your dad or someone who can actually make a purchase." Jasmine blinked. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. Instead, she pulled out her phone and calmly tapped the camera button, pretending she was, just scrolling. The man didn't notice. Another man walked over. Probably the manager, judging by his slick suit and shiny watch. "Is there a problem here?" he asked the salesman, looking at Jasmine. "She's just browsing," the salesman said, shrugging. Asked about the electric models. The manager gave Jasmine the same quick glance. "Right. Well, those are high-end vehicles. We don't allow casual walkthroughs without an appointment." Jasmine looked at both of them. "I didn't know. I needed an appointment to ask questions about a car." "It's policy," the manager said, his tone flat. "We've had people come in just to take selfies with the cars, waste our time. You know how it is. We're trying to maintain a professional environment." Jasmine nodded slowly. She was trying not to let her face show how much those words stung. "I see," she said softly. The manager gave a stiff smile. "Good. Have a nice day." And he turned away. Jasmine walked toward the door slowly. Her chest felt tight, and her hands were shaking just a little. She didn't want to cry. Not here. She stepped outside into the bright afternoon light and took a deep breath. A couple walked past her, heading into the dealership. The staff opened the door for them with big smiles. Jasmine stood there on the sidewalk for a moment, staring at her reflection in the glass. She looked like herself, but somehow they hadn't seen her at all. She pulled out her phone and rewatched the short clip she had taken. The voices were clear. The tone was clear. She could post it, she thought. She could let people hear how she had been treated. But instead she locked her phone and started walking. She didn't need internet drama. She needed time to think. She took the bus home, the city passing by in a blur. Her mind replayed the moment over and over. How they looked at her, how they talked to her like she didn't belong. She had been through things like this before. Store clerks following her around, waiters ignoring her, people assuming she was a thief or lost. But this had felt different. This had felt like they wanted her gone the moment she walked in. At home, the apartment was quiet. Her father was in his study, typing away on his laptop. Jasmine sat on the couch and stared at the floor for a while. Then she got up and knocked on his door. "Come in," her father said without looking up. When he saw her face, he paused and leaned back in his chair. "You okay?" Jasmine nodded. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" He closed the laptop. "Always." She told him everything, every word, every look, every moment. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. Her voice was steady, but her eyes said everything. Her father, Isaiah Carter, listened carefully. He didn't interrupt once. When she finished, he reached for her hand and held it. "I'm sorry that happened to you," he said softly. She shrugged. "I should be used to it by now. I wasn't wearing anything fancy, and maybe I didn't look like someone who could afford their cars, but—" Isaiah stopped her gently. "You don't have to explain anything. They were wrong, not you." Jasmine smiled faintly. "I didn't want to start drama. I didn't post the video." Isaiah nodded. "You didn't need to. You handled it with grace." He looked thoughtful, for a moment. Then he asked, "What was the name of the dealership?" She hesitated. "It's fine, Dad. I don't want you to do anything." He raised an eyebrow. "I'm not going to make a scene. I just want to go shopping." Jasmine looked at him confused. "What do you mean?" He stood up and smiled. "You'll see tomorrow." That night, Jasmine lay in bed thinking about the day. Part of her wanted to forget it. Part of her felt angry that she had to even try to forget it. But most of all, she felt tired. Not just from walking or classes, but from the constant effort of being seen, really seen, not judged, not dismissed. She didn't know what her father had planned. He was never the loud or flashy type. He didn't post pictures of his bank account or throw his money around. Most people had no idea he was a billionaire. He kept a low profile and lived simply. Jasmine had never needed to show off. She had always believed that respect should come from who you are, not what you wear or drive. Still, something about her father's calm promise made her curious. The next day, when he told her to get dressed nicely, she obeyed without question. She didn't ask why. She just pulled on a clean blouse and black jeans and tied her hair into a neat ponytail. Her father was already waiting outside. A gleaming Rolls-Royce Phantom with gold accents was parked by the curb, its engine so quiet it felt like a whisper. The driver, in white gloves and a formal suit, opened the door for her. Jasmine's eyes widened. "This is ours?" Her father smiled. "It's one of a few. I just don't bring it out often." Jasmine got in silently. Her heart was beating. Faster now. Not from excitement, but from something else. Something bigger. As the car pulled away from their neighborhood, heading back toward the dealership, she looked out the window and whispered to herself, "Let's see if they still don't see me." The streets passed by slowly, but her mind raced. She wasn't sure what was about to happen, but she had a feeling this time they wouldn't be ignoring her. And just like that, the quiet girl they had pushed aside was on her way back. But she wasn't alone this time. And this time, the doors were going to open wide. Jasmine sat quietly on the soft leather couch in their living room, the faint hum of city life drifting through the open window. The afternoon sunlight painted gentle patterns on the floor as she stared at her phone, the video she had taken still, playing in her mind. The scene at the dealership kept running like a loop. How the salesman had ignored her, the cold dismissal, and the manager's final words that made her feel small and unwanted. But she didn't feel defeated. Instead, she felt a slow burning inside her, a mix of disappointment and quiet determination. She waited for her father to finish his meeting. Isaiah Carter was a man of few words, but his presence filled the room like a calm storm. He was tall, with salt and pepper hair that gave him an air of wisdom beyond his years. His eyes, sharp and thoughtful, were the kind that missed nothing. Despite being a billionaire investor, Isaiah lived simply. He rarely showed off his wealth, choosing instead to focus on his work and on raising Jasmine with a strong sense of humility and pride in who she was. When the meeting ended, Isaiah walked into the living room, removing his glasses and settling into the armchair across from Jasmine. She looked up and met his gaze, noticing a flicker of concern there. She took a deep breath, then began to tell him everything that happened at the dealership. She didn't add any extra emotion or dramatics, just the facts. How she had asked questions politely, how the staff had brushed her off, and how the manager had told her to come back with someone who could buy the car. Isaiah listened carefully. His face was calm, but Jasmine could see the muscles in his jaw tighten slightly. When she finished, there was a moment of silence. Then he reached across the space between them and took her hand gently. "I'm sorry they treated you like that," he said quietly. "You didn't deserve it." Jasmine shrugged. "It's not the first time. People make assumptions about me all the time. Maybe because I don't look like what they expect." Isaiah nodded slowly. "That's their problem, not yours." Jasmine looked down at their joined hands and felt a wave of warmth. She didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but having her father acknowledge it felt like the first step towards something better. She showed him the video she had recorded, just a short clip of the conversation. Isaiah watched it, his eyes narrowing as he saw the disrespectful tone from the dealership staff. "They think they can treat you like that because they don't know who you are," Isaiah said after the video ended. "They don't see you as a person, just a guess based on what you wear or how you look." Jasmine bit her lip. "I didn't want to post it online or make it public. I just wanted to show you." Isaiah smiled gently. "Good. Sometimes the quiet strength is the most powerful. We don't always need to shout to be heard." Jasmine nodded, but inside she was thinking about what to do next. The memory of the cold looks, the dismissive words, they stayed with her like a shadow she couldn't shake. She didn't want to fight fire with fire. She wanted to change things, to make sure no one else had to feel invisible or unworthy just because of how they looked. Her father seemed to understand this perfectly. He had always taught her that respect wasn't something you demanded with anger, but earned with dignity. And sometimes, the best way to earn respect was to show people what they were missing by underestimating you. Isaiah leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful look on his face. "What's the name of that dealership?" Jasmine hesitated for a moment. "It's called Silvergate Motors." Isaiah nodded. "I know the place. I've dealt with them before. They cater to the kind of people who think money is everything." Jasmine frowned. "They made me feel like I didn't belong there." "That's because they don't understand who you are, and they never will unless they see it with their own eyes." Isaiah's voice was calm but firm. "Tomorrow we're going back there?" Jasmine looked at him surprised. "But why?" "I don't want to cause trouble." Isaiah smiled softly. "It's not about trouble. It's about showing them the truth. Sometimes people need to be reminded that real value isn't just in a wallet or a suit. It's in character. And sometimes that reminder comes in the form of presence." Jasmine thought about it. She remembered how she felt walking out of that dealership, small and ignored. But if she came back with her father, someone who commanded respect just by walking into a room, maybe things would be different. Maybe this time people would listen. That night, Jasmine barely slept. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. She wondered how her father would handle the situation. She knew he wasn't the kind to yell or embarrass anyone. He was quiet, but powerful in his own way. She also wondered how the dealership staff would react when they saw the man who owned part of the city's tech skyline standing beside her. The next morning, Jasmine dressed carefully. She chose simple but neat clothes, a crisp white blouse and dark jeans. Her hair was pulled back into a smooth ponytail. She didn't want to look flashy or intimidating. She just wanted to look like herself, but ready for whatever was coming. Outside, her father waited by the driveway, his suit perfectly pressed. Beside him, parked under the shade of a large oak tree, was a car Jasmine had only seen in movies, a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Its matte black finish shimmered subtly, with gold accents catching the light. The engine was silent, but it spoke of power and elegance in every line. Her eyes widened. "Is this really ours?" Isaiah smiled. "One of mine. I don't bring it out often." The driver opened the rear door and Jasmine stepped inside. The interior was soft leather, the air scented with subtle cedar wood. As the car pulled away from their quiet neighborhood, Jasmine looked out the window and felt something she hadn't felt before. A quiet confidence. Her father spoke softly. "This isn't just about the car. It's about how people see you. Tomorrow we'll remind them that appearances can be deceiving." Jasmine nodded, feeling a mixture of nervousness and excitement. She wasn't sure what awaited her at Silvergate Motors, but this time she knew she wouldn't be alone. The car glided smoothly through the streets, heading toward downtown Atlanta, where the dealership waited with its glass walls and shining cars. Jasmine's heart beat faster. She wondered if the salesman would recognize her. She wondered if they would change their tune. But most of all, she wondered if they would finally see her, not just as a girl in a hoodie, but as someone worthy of respect, worthy of being heard, worthy of standing tall. As the city skyline grew closer, Jasmine took a deep breath. Tomorrow would be a new day, and this time things would be different. The morning sun rose slowly over the city of Atlanta, casting a soft golden light on the streets below. The air was warm and calm, but something was different today. At the Silvergate Motors dealership, there was a quiet tension, almost like the calm before a storm. The staff arrived early, their usual confident smiles replaced by uncertain looks. Whispers floated between them, eyes glancing toward the entrance again and again. Everyone seemed to sense that something unusual was about to happen. At exactly 10 a.m., the large glass doors slid open smoothly. A sleek, matte black Rolls-Royce Phantom rolled up to the curb, its polished gold accents catching the sunlight like tiny stars. The driver stepped out first, his white gloves crisp and spotless, as he opened the rear door with a quiet, respectful motion. Then, Isaiah Carter stepped out of the car, dressed in an impeccable navy blue suit. His tall frame carried an air of calm power, the kind of presence that made people stand a little straighter and watch a little closer. Behind him came Jasmine, calm and collected, dressed neatly but simply. She was no longer just the girl in the hoodie. She was the daughter of a man who was respected and known, though rarely seen in the city's business circles. The sales staff, already on edge, froze for a moment. The same manager who had dismissed Jasmine the day before looked away, his confidence suddenly faltering. He whispered to a nearby employee, "Is that Isaiah Carter?" The answer came in quick nods. Isaiah was well known in the business world, a billionaire investor with a reputation for sharp intelligence and quiet influence. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the dealership shifted dramatically. Isaiah didn't smile or boast. Instead, he walked slowly into the showroom, his footsteps steady and measured. Jasmine followed quietly, her head held high but her expression unreadable. The staff scrambled to greet them, their earlier dismissiveness replaced with nervous energy. The same salesman who had ignored Jasmine now approached with a forced smile, offering champagne and glossy brochures. Isaiah's eyes scanned the cars around the room with careful interest. He stopped in front of a high-end electric vehicle, asking detailed questions about the battery life, the acceleration, and the advanced safety features. Jasmine listened quietly, remembering how she had been treated just yesterday. She walked slowly past the cars, observing the reactions of the sales staff as they tried hard to impress her father. Some looked uncomfortable. Others hurried to open doors or point out the latest technology. Then Isaiah asked the manager directly, "Do you remember the young woman who was here yesterday?" The manager's face paled slightly. Yes, sir. I believe so. That's my daughter," Isaiah said calmly. Jasmine stepped forward and looked directly at the manager. Her voice was clear and steady. "I was here yesterday. You told me I didn't belong." The room fell silent. The weight of her words hung heavily in the air. The manager stammered, searching for an answer, but none came. Isaiah continued without raising his voice. "You made assumptions based on how she looked. You judged her before you even spoke. How many customers have you lost because of this attitude?" The staff shifted uncomfortably. Isaiah's tone was firm but controlled, like a teacher speaking to a class that needed to learn a hard lesson. Jasmine added softly, "You treated me like I was invisible because I wasn't wearing designer clothes or driving a fancy car. But I'm still a customer, and I'm still a person." Another customer in the showroom overheard the conversation and quietly left, shaking her head in disappointment. The salespeople remained silent, faced with the truth they had tried to ignore. Isaiah turned to the manager and said, "I will be purchasing 2 of your most expensive vehicles today. But let me make something clear. This receipt will be made out to another dealership." The manager's eyes widened in surprise. Isaiah smiled gently and explained, "This is not a punishment, but a reminder that respect is earned by how you treat people, not by how much money they spend." Jasmine felt a mixture of relief and satisfaction. She had not wanted revenge or a public spectacle. She wanted the truth to be seen and respected. After the purchase was complete, Isaiah and Jasmine walked out of the dealership. The staff watched them go in silence, the lesson clear but hard to accept. Outside, Jasmine looked up at her father. "Thank you," she said quietly. Isaiah smiled and replied, "You taught them more today than I ever could." The Rolls-Royce waited silently at the curb, ready to take them away. As they drove off, Jasmine felt something inside her shift. She wasn't invisible anymore, not just because of the car she rode in, but because she had stood up with grace and strength. Today was not just about a car purchase. It was about respect, dignity, and the power of being seen for who you truly are. The city stretched out before them, full of possibilities. And Jasmine knew this was only the beginning of her journey. The afternoon sun was soft, casting long shadows on the quiet street where Jasmine and her father had just left the dealership. The silence in the car felt different this time, not awkward or tense, but filled with a calm understanding between them. Jasmine leaned back in the leather seat of the Rolls-Royce, the coolness of the interior calming her nerves. She looked out the window, watching the city go by, feeling a mixture of relief, pride, and hope she had not known before. For days, the memory of being dismissed at the dealership had weighed heavily on her. But now, with her father's quiet support and the visit to Silvergate Motors, something inside her had changed. She realized that respect didn't come from pretending to be someone else or from anger, but from standing firmly in her own truth. And that truth was powerful. At home later, Jasmine sat across from her father at the dinner table. The meal was simple: grilled chicken, steamed vegetables, and rice. But the conversation was anything but ordinary. Isaiah looked at her with pride. "You handled yourself well," he said softly. "Many people would have lost their temper or walked away. But you didn't. You faced it head on." Jasmine smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "I was scared at first," she admitted, "but I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of seeing me broken." Isaiah nodded. "Strength isn't about never feeling fear. It's about moving forward despite it. They talked late into the night about dreams and hopes. Jasmine told her father about her passion for cars, not just driving them, but understanding how they worked, how technology could change the world, and how electric cars could help protect the environment. Isaiah listened intently, encouraging her to think bigger. "You have the mind and the heart for this," he said, "and the power to make a difference." Jasmine felt a spark ignite inside her. She wanted to study engineering, to design cars that were beautiful, fast, and kind to the planet. She wanted to prove to the world, and to herself, that she belonged in places where people like her were often overlooked. Days passed, and Jasmine threw herself into her studies with new energy. She worked harder, read more, and reached out to professors and professionals in the automotive world. She applied for internships, eager to learn from the best and prove her worth. Her father supported her quietly, sometimes sending her books on engineering or arranging meetings with his contacts, but he never pushed her. He believed in her ability to choose her own path. One afternoon, Jasmine received a call from a well-known automotive design firm. They had heard about her work and wanted to interview her for a summer internship. She couldn't believe it. This was the opportunity she had dreamed of. When she told her father, his smile was proud but humble. "You earned this," he said, "not because of who I am, but because of who you are." Jasmine worked hard during the internship, impressing her mentors with her creativity and dedication. She learned about the latest technologies in electric vehicles, battery management, and design innovation. Every day she felt closer to her dream. Back at the dealership, the story of her visit spread quietly among staff. Some of the salespeople talked about how their attitude had been wrong, how they had lost a valuable customer because they judged too quickly. The manager, especially, was reflective. He realized that respect and kindness mattered more than fancy suits or big bank accounts. Meanwhile, Jasmine's confidence grew. She began speaking at local schools and community centers, sharing her story and encouraging young people, especially girls of color, to pursue their passions in science and engineering. She wanted others to know they belonged, no matter what anyone else said. One day, as she stood in front of a group of teenagers, she said, "I was once told I didn't belong in a place just because of how I looked. But I learned that belonging isn't about fitting into someone else's idea. It's about believing in yourself and never letting anyone else decide your worth." Her words resonated deeply. Faces in the crowd lit up with hope and determination. Home. Isaiah watched his daughter with quiet pride. He knew the road ahead wouldn't always be easy. There would be challenges, doubts, and setbacks. But he also knew Jasmine had the strength to overcome them. Together, they dreamed of a future where people would be judged by their talents and hearts, not by appearances or money. A future where respect was given freely, and everyone had the chance to shine. Jasmine's journey was far from over. But now, she faced the world with a new light in her eyes, one that said she was ready to take on anything, to break barriers, and to create a place where she truly belonged. The days that followed were filled with new challenges and exciting opportunities for Jasmine. She had taken a huge step by standing up for herself and showing the world who she really was. But she also knew this was just the beginning. Life wasn't going to hand her success on a silver platter. She needed to work hard, learn more, and prove herself every single day. What made her journey special, though, was the strength she carried inside. A strength built from the trials she had faced and the love and support of her father. Every morning, Jasmine woke up early, her mind buzzing with ideas. She was now working with the automotive design firm, and every day brought something new. She studied car engines, battery systems, and cutting-edge technology that was shaping the future of transportation. The engineers she worked with were kind and patient, eager to share their knowledge, but they also expected her to bring her best. Jasmine was determined not to let anyone down. She stayed late in the workshop, sketching new designs, testing models, and asking questions whenever she could. Her father Isaiah kept a close but quiet eye on her progress. He rarely interfered but was always ready with advice when she needed it. He reminded her to stay humble, work hard, and remember that her worth was never tied to money or status. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Isaiah said, "Jasmine, remember, the real power lies not in wealth but in your mind and your heart. You have the talent to change the world." Jasmine nodded, feeling a deep sense of responsibility. She wanted to build cars that were not only beautiful and fast, but also good for the planet. She wanted to inspire other young girls, especially those who felt invisible or overlooked, to dream big and never give up. At the same time, the experience at the dealership continued to influence her deeply. Jasmine realized that the problem of judgment based on appearance was everywhere, not just at Silvergate Motors. She began to notice it in schools, workplaces, and even in simple daily interactions. But instead of feeling discouraged, she chose to use her voice to fight those judgments. She started speaking at community events and schools, telling her story and encouraging others to believe in themselves. Her message was simple but powerful. No one should be judged by how they look or where they come from. Her speeches became popular, and soon local newspapers and social media began to share her story. People admired her courage and the way she handled adversity with grace. Some young people reached out to her, thanking her for giving them hope. Jasmine was surprised by how much her words could inspire others. She realized she had become more than just a student or an intern. She had become a role model. One afternoon, Jasmine received a message from a major automotive company inviting her to visit their design center. They had heard about her work and wanted to see her ideas. It was a big deal, a chance to show what she could do on a larger stage. When she told her father, his eyes sparkled with pride. "You earned this. Go show them what you're made of." The visit was exciting and a little nerve-wracking. Jasmine met top engineers and designers who challenged her to think bigger and bolder. She shared her ideas about sustainable materials and electric vehicles designed for everyday people, not just the wealthy. Her passion and knowledge impressed the team, and they offered her a chance to collaborate on an upcoming project. Back home, Isaiah and Jasmine celebrated quietly. The journey was still long, but the path was clearer now. Jasmine felt ready to face whatever came next. She had learned that the most important thing was to believe in herself and to never let anyone else's opinions define her. As she lay in bed that night, Jasmine thought about the girl she had been, the one who walked into a dealership and was told she didn't belong. Now she was the young woman who had taken that moment and turned it into a story of strength, change, and hope. She smiled softly, knowing this was just the start of something much bigger. The world was hers to shape, one step at a time.